Yeah, very good. So do sit comfortably. I'm going to speak for a little bit, and then we'll meditate. We'll do a period of the Metabhavna before tea. So tonight is the third of a series of 3 talks that I've been giving on the root verses of the 6 Bardos, from the Bardo to Dol, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And if you've not been here for the previous 2, well, they are recorded, so you can catch up. And this talk will, it'll still make sense. You'll get more from it, as in a way, if you have heard the other 2, in that there's a progression. But it will still stand alone, so don't worry if you haven't heard the previous 2. Yeah. And tonight, particularly, we're going to be looking at death. We were looking last week at life, the Bardo of life. Tonight we'll be looking at death. The first week was more of an introduction to the whole text and the series, etc. And we've got, you'll notice an image of Padmasambhava on the shrine. That's because this text, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is said to have come from Padmasambhava. He's said to have, as it were, given this text, or more accurately, he's said to have hidden the text in a secret location. It's a secret text. It's a hidden treasure that was then found and discovered by an 14th century Karmalingpa Turton, who's a revealer of the treasure. That's that's the mythical history of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Bardo to Dol. But tonight we're going to be looking particularly at death, and it just feels appropriate to begin with the Metabhavna. The Metabhavna practice, you could say, is a preparation for death. Partly it'll be, I hope, a preparation for when we actually come to die. I hope that we'll feel that we can connect with love, with metta. I hope that we'll feel that we've connected with metta in our life, during our life, that metta has been the sort of the hallmark of how we've acted in our life, at least, or how we've tried to act, that we've tried to live a life inspired by metta. If we can do that, I think we'll die well. Yeah? If we can live well with metta, I think we'll die well. I think we'll die without regret, and I think that will then be a very important, well, it'll be important in itself, but when it comes to what happens after the death of the body, to have a heart that is open and full of metta, full of love, will be very important in what happens next. And you'll see that, we'll come on to that. So sometimes I think we undervalue this practice of the Metabhavna. It's even sometimes seen as a sort of beginner's practice, introductory practice, and then you move on to higher tantric practices where you can explore all sorts of other things. Well, we do teach other practices in Triratna, but the Metabhavna you never leave behind. You never leave. It's not like you move on from loving kindness. It can take you, in a sense, all the way to a glimpse of what the enlightened mind would be like. For an enlightened being, there would be, or the emotional flavour of the enlightened experience would be unconditional, unbounded metta. There'd be more than that. There'd be a wisdom element, there'd be a knowing element, there'd be a knowing, for example, that this world and all its beings are not absolutely real. They're in some way not as real as we think they are. We're not as real as we think we are. The world doesn't exist quite in the way that we think it does, nor is it absolutely unreal, nor have we just kind of made it up. It's somewhere in between a sort of naive realism and a naive idealism, the Buddhist position. An enlightened mind would apprehend that, know that, not just as an intellectual thought, but as a lived realization. They'd know that. That's because they would be in touch with a consciousness that's more real. It's only when you sort of wake up from a dream that you know that you've been dreaming, normally at least. It's when you're in touch with something more aware that you can sort of ascertain that the dream consciousness was somehow less real, or less real, let's say. So an enlightened mind would have woken up to a more real dimension, and in comparison, this world that we get so invested in would be less real. That would be the wisdom element, and then the emotional element would be love. So it's not like you see this world as less real and then just think, oh well, who cares? And a Buddha would be responding to the suffering of all beings with love. There would be a compassion response and an urge to alleviate suffering. So the metta bhavana is a sort of precursor to what an enlightened being's emotional world might be like. Maybe. It sort of points us in that direction. So we'll do a period of the metta bhavana, but I thought I'd say a little bit about sort of how we're going to meditate, or how to approach meditation. And then what I want us to do is I'll lead us in the Padmasambhava mantra. So I'll lead us into the meditation by beginning the Padmasambhava mantra, and then let's all chant the Padmasambhava mantra. And as the mantra then dies away, I won't say any more, and we'll just go into the first stage of the metta bhavana. And you may already then be in touch with, you could imagine that Padmasambhava's love. Padmasambhava is in a way, he's not really different from the Buddha. But you could imagine that Padmasambhava's metta is already present and flowing towards you. So the first stage, you could just be opening up to the love that's already there in the universe. You could say it's Padmasambhava's love, the enlightened mind's love, the Buddha's love. You could just let go into that. Letting go is going to be very important when we come to talking about what happens at death. In fact, the key kind of instruction in the Bardo of death is let go. Let go. It's all right to let go. It's all right to let go of holding on to this body and, in a way, this mind that I think of as me. So see if we can do a little bit of letting go, again, as a sort of, well, I don't want to sort of freak you out, but as a sort of training in death. Yeah? When letting go will be sort of thrust upon you. Bhante once said that death was a state of enforced meditation. Death was a state of enforced meditation. Like, there's no, you can't then, look at YouTube shorts when you've lost use of the body and stuff. It will be enforced meditation. And if you're trained in meditation, you're more likely to then be able to open up to the opportunity that the death of the body presents. Yeah. So let's do the metta bhavana in the spirit of opening up to the love and letting go of holding on to me. I'm going to say a couple more things, so don't set up just yet. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to say. I think what I want to say is. I think I want to say, look, the mantra is an evocation of a consciousness. So you sort of let go into chanting the mantra and listening to the mantra as well. So in this text, the root verses, hearing is very important. You're meant to hear these verses at the moment of death, or at least the whole of the Bardo Tadol is saying, look, have it read to you at the moment of death. And hearing is a sort of, there's a potential wisdom in it. And the same is true for hearing a mantra, but also chanting a mantra. So see if you can not just see it as a sort of sing-along, but as if you're trying to open up to another dimension of consciousness that Padmasambhava represents. What I guess I'm talking about is Shraddha. I'm talking about faith. I'm talking about Shraddha, confidence, faith, that there is another dimension of consciousness and that is available to us. Again, when you come to die, or when the body dies, one of the, as well as letting go, one of the things that will, I was going to say save us, but that sounds too Christian, doesn't it? That will enable us to take the opportunity to be liberated, is faith in whatever appears. That there is this dimension and you can have confidence in it, that there is something extremely positive behind our ordinary experience, and letting go into that at the moment of death is what will potentially allow us to become liberated. Yeah. So cultivation of Shraddha is another very important quality. So I've said cultivation of metta, cultivation of Shraddha, and the letting go into sort of relaxing into our experience. All of that's going to be really, really key when it comes to dying. And guess what? It'll help you in the meantime live a meaningful life. Yeah, it'll help you in life, all of those qualities. So that's what we're going to do. So last week I led us into the meditation with a sort of body scan and things. I'm not going to do that, but I just want to remind you of how to sort of lead yourself into the meditation, because you may need to do that as well as chanting the mantra. So what I was suggesting is, look, you first of all need to ground yourself. Grounding your experience of the body, the physical experience of the body, is really key if you're not going to get completely distracted and wander off. So a really good idea is to feel the weight of the body and the points of contact that the body is making with the cushions or with the chair and with the ground. So you actually feel them. It's not like you think about, oh yeah, I've got my sitting bones or my buttocks or my feet or whatever. It's not like you have even a mental image. It's like you have a direct experience. See if you can feel the sensations now of those points of contact. And then you imagine the weight dropping down through those points of contact into the earth. Let the earth take your weight. That's what I mean by grounding. If you do that, you'll find areas of tension starting to soften. And you can encourage that if you notice that they're softening. Because partly what we do is when we're tense, we're holding ourselves, as it were, up off the ground, slightly off the cushion. We're kind of tensing. We're not letting go into the earth. So you'll find if you focus on those points of contact and letting go of your weight, that you'll become more relaxed. And you can encourage that by scanning the body and looking for any areas where you habitually hold on. Yeah, so you can do that. I was also encouraging us to have an overall sense of the body, the space that the body occupies. See if you can have an imaginative sense of that space, and then imagine that the body is like a mass of energy, a mass of sensations, a cloud of sensations. When you've got your eyes closed, it's like I want you to see if you can let go of a mental image of the body and just experience the sensations. And the sensations are taking place in this overall space. Yeah? If you're tuned into energy and subtle energy, you might even feel energy beyond the surface of the skin. The space of that energy is bigger than the physical space that the body occupies. So have a sense of that energetic space, and then just have an overall sense of the sensations in the body. And then you can start to focus in on the belly and the heart center. And then that's where you meditate from. Yeah. And in the Metta Bhavana, in this, well, all 5 stages, let's see if we can just imaginatively open up to the metta that's already there. So you don't have to force it, you don't have to cultivate it. You could have the confidence, have the trust, have the shraddha that metta is already there. Not, as it were, in your ordinary mind, but the Buddha's metta is already there for you and for all beings, and you can open up to that and be a channel for that. Yeah? So you don't have to do anything to force it. So that's a little kind of preamble as to how to meditate. We'll sit now, and then I'll begin the Padmasambhava mantra, and then we'll move into a period of the Metta Bhavana. The root verses of the 6 Bardos. O now, when the Bardo of life upon me is dawning, abandoning idleness, there being no idleness in a devotee's life, entering into the reality undistractedly, listening, reflecting, and meditating, carrying on to the path knowledge of the true nature of appearances and of mind, may the Trikaya be realized. Once that the human form has been attained, may there be no time or opportunity in which to idle it away. O now, when the Bardo of dreams upon me is dawning, abandoning the inordinate corpse-like sleeping of the sleep of stupidity, may the consciousness undistractedly be kept in its natural state. Comprehending the true nature of dreams, may I train myself in the clear light of miraculous transformation, acting not like the brutes in slothfulness. May the blending of the practicing of the sleep state and the actual or waking experience be highly valued by me. O now, when the Bardo of meditation upon me is dawning, abandoning the whole mass of distractions and illusions, may the mind be kept at rest in endless undistracted samadhi. May firmness both in the visualizing and in the perfecting stages be obtained. At this time, when meditating one-pointedly, with all other actions put aside, may I not fall under the power of misleading, stupefying passions. O now, when the Bardo of the moment of death upon me is dawning, abandoning attraction and craving and weakness for all worldly things, may I be undistracted in the space of the bright, enlightening teachings. May I be able to transfuse myself into the heavenly space of the unborn. The hour has come to part with this body composed of flesh and blood. May I know the body to be impermanent and illusory. O now, when the Bardo of reality upon me is dawning, abandoning all awe, fear, and terror of all phenomena, may I recognize whatever appears as being my own thought forms. May I know them to be apparitions in the intermediate state. It has been said, there arrives a time when the chief turning point is reached. Fear not the bands of the peaceful and wrathful, who are your own thought forms. O now, when the Bardo of taking rebirth upon me is dawning, one-pointedly holding fast to a single wish, may I be able to continue the course of good deeds through repeated effort. May the womb door be closed and revulsion recollected. The hour has come when energy and pure love are needed. May I cast off jealousy and meditate upon the Guru, the Father-Mother. O procrastinating one, who thinks not of the coming of death, devoting yourself to the useless doings of this life, improvident are you in dissipating your great opportunity. Mistaken indeed will your purpose be now if you return empty-handed from this life. Since the holy Dharma is known to be your true need, will you not devote yourself to the holy Dharma even now? So tonight we're going to look at death, the intermediate state after death, and rebirth. So hopefully you'll come out the other side a little bit changed. Let's see what happens. Yeah, good. So I want to read again the verse, first of all, to do with the moment of death, and then we'll look at what this text, at least, the Bardo to Dole, which isn't the only Buddhist text on death, and there isn't a sort of universal agreement as to what happens after death. This is one tradition, and it's a tradition that in the West has become most well known. But also, I'm really struck that Bhante says it's the best elucidation of the death and the after-death state that we have in the Buddhist tradition. So I'll read you that verse again about death, and then we'll unpack it, and then I'll do the same for the Bardo of reality, as it's called in this verse, the Bardo of Dharmata, and then we'll look at it, and then the Bardo of rebirth, and then we'll look at it, and then I might have a few concluding things to say. Yeah. So the Bardo of death is it's actually the moment of death. So the body is dying, and this is what at least this translation says. "O now when the Bardo of the moment of death upon me is dawning, abandoning attraction and craving and weakness for all worldly things, may I be undistracted in the space of the bright enlightening teachings. May I be able to transfuse myself into the heavenly space of the unborn. The hour has come to part with this body composed of flesh and blood. May I know the body to be impermanent and illusory." Okay, so when the body dies, there's said to be a real opportunity where everything that we identify with is stripped away. And there's a sense in which freedom opens up, because everything is stripped away. Everything that we normally hold on to is stripped away. And there's an opportunity that's said to arise where reality shines undimmed, sort of nakedly in front of us, the light of reality. It's said that the whole text is about light, light and sound. The light of reality shines undimmed, as it were, nakedly before us, before our consciousness. And it's a real opportunity, because if we can recognize that this light of reality is also the light of the nature of our own mind. In the first talk I was talking about at the deepest level of our own mind, there's a type of, as it were, awareness. It's not a thing, mind, by the way. It's not a thing in a world of things. It's a sort of faculty of knowing. There's a type of knowing at the deepest level of our own mind that we are not normally in touch with, where everything is all right all the time. It's more than all right. It's complete. It's complete fulfillment and peace beyond anything that we usually experience as peace. It's freedom, it's love, it's all the qualities of the enlightened mind are there at the very, very deepest level of our own mind. And it's that light, that sort of awareness, that mind, that flashes before us when the body falls away. And the encouragement here is to recognize it, yeah? To recognize it as reality, to recognize it as your own deepest nature, truest nature. It's said to be like white light, like dazzling white light. And the tradition says that it's momentary, or it's very brief. For some people, it'll be extremely brief, like they may not even sort of be conscious that it's happened. It might be just like a lightning flash. If you're more trained in meditation, for example, it's likely to last longer and there's more of an opportunity. So in meditation, part of what meditation does is train you in letting go of identification with our sense experience, yeah, and with our body. And if you, in this tradition, Triratna, when you're ordained, you're given a meditation practice that is very much about letting go of identifying with the body and with our normal consciousness. And you, as you sort of do this practice, it's called the six element practice. As you do this practice, you not just imaginatively but experientially relax more and more deeply, because the letting go is also like a relaxing. It's also like a relaxing. The holding on to ourselves is like a clinging. That's what Buddhism says is at the root of all our unsatisfactoriness. All the dukkha in the world is from this clinging to what I think of as me. Yeah, my body, my mind, my preferences, me and my possessions, my loved ones. I cling. My group, my tribe, my nation, my football team, whatever it is, we cling and it causes dukkha. As the Euros unfold, there will be dukkha. If not for you, for somebody else. There will be dukkha the more you cling. And meditation, Buddhist practice, all of it is about, can we learn to let go while we're still alive, while we're still got a body, while we're still having sense experience, while we still do have ordinary consciousness. Can we learn to not cling to it so tightly? I mean, you still have the experiences, you can even enjoy yourself. It's more that how tightly do you identify with those experiences? I think one of the tests of how tightly you identify is when somebody is unpleasant to you, or insults you or your views or your group that you identify with. And if you can just kind of be fairly, okay, well, we disagree, we can agree to disagree, then you're not too closely clinging. Do you see what I mean? It's when we start getting really reactive and hot and blame, and you look at how much hatred and blame there is in the world, that's due to this sort of identification and clinging. Yeah? So anyway, if we've trained in that way, if we've done meditation, ideally if we've done the six element practice, we will have had, hopefully in this life, some experiences of what opens up in consciousness when you completely let go, of identifying with everything that you think of as me, this body and this mind, everything, I mean every little aspect of what you think of as you, like possessions and career and things are very superficial. This body and this mind goes a bit deeper, but letting go even of that, that's what you train in, particularly as an order member. It's called spiritual death, and you're given practices, particularly the sixth element practice, to ideally do, frequently. Most people tend to not do it every day, although a bit of it every day would be fantastic if you're an order member and you're listening. If you're not ordained, there's a reason why we don't introduce you to these practices before ordination, and that's to do with they are demanding practices, and if you don't have enough sort of emotional positivity, robustness, metta, then they can be destabilizing. Yeah, they can. The Buddha is said to have given, when he was alive, a bunch of ascetics. He taught them the sixth element practice or something similar to the sixth element practice, and they weren't ready for it. And even the Buddha made a mistake there. He didn't anticipate that it would destabilize them. And he came back later, and some of them, or all of them, had committed suicide. So these practices are not to be played with. And ordination, if you ask for ordination, some of you have asked for ordination, some of you have been ordained, you go through a training process where you develop the right views and attitudes and understanding, the dharmic understanding, and enough positivity and sort of integration of your psyche, a healthy psyche, before you start to disidentify in this way. Yeah, you don't want to destabilize yourself. In a way, you need to build up a healthy, happy human psyche that can just function well in the world and get on with other people and be in good relationship and be ethically skillful and responsible for your actions, morally responsible for your actions, etc. All of that is a basis, and then you start disidentifying. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's part of the training that you do. You train for death. If you haven't had much experience of training for death, it's said that this bright light will probably be very quick, and you won't necessarily have an opportunity to recognize it and let go into it. So last time round, none of us recognised it. Yeah? So I didn't recognise it. That's why I'm here, and neither did you, unless you're here as an embodiment of enlightenment. In which case, tell me later. But it's not easy to recognise without training. What's said to happen is that we will find ourselves so sort of bamboozled by losing all our bearings. You know, there'll be no ground to stand on, nothing to hold on to. We'll be so sort of overwhelmed with that we'll shrink back from this light. That's what typically happens if you're not trained. Yeah. Anyway, this root verse is saying, recognize it. Don't let go of grasping after worldly things. So let go of your craving. It's even telling you that you have died, because it's said that sometimes the consciousness doesn't know that it's died. I mean, that the body has died. Do you see what I mean? And that will just add to the bewilderment and the confusion. So the root verses are meant to be read out, and part of it is said, the hour has come to part with this body composed of flesh and blood. It's saying, let go of the body. It's fine. It really is fine. We are so terrified of losing the body because we are so identified with it. From a Buddhist perspective, actually it's fine. It's fine to let go of the body. that's not who we really are. It's a temporary, construction that we've got embroiled with and identified with. And actually it's not only transient and temporary, it's limiting. The dissolution of the body is an opportunity for consciousness to expand and be unlimited, unbounded, completely unbounded. We don't know that. Well, actually, if you've had deeper meditative experiences where consciousness has expanded and maybe even become unbounded, that's possible in this life, then you'll know from experience that this normal consciousness where we identify with this and my mind and my preferences, my thoughts, my worries, my wants, my desires, my aversions, all of that is cramped and tiny and painful compared to the liberated, unbounded consciousness. So we live from a dharmic perspective, in that tiny, painful prison, but we're really attached to it. We're really attached to it. And partly that's because we don't know anything else. So the body dies, and there's this opportunity of complete freedom into boundlessness. And it's said that if you can let go at that moment and in recognition of what's happening, if you can let go, you instantly become enlightened. You become enlightened without any form. It's like you become part of the nature of reality. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what, because you still are said to be a Dharmakaya Buddha. I don't know what that means, but you are completely liberated. If you want to read an account of the dying process from a Buddhist, Mingyur Rinpoche, who's alive and alive now, he's a contemporary Tibetan practitioner. He's written a book called In Love with the World. He had a near-death experience, and he's been meditating for decades and practicing for that death experience. And so he was able to maintain mindfulness, awareness, as his body was dying. In fact, it's kind of really remarkable. He was, I won't tell you, I haven't got time to tell you the whole kind of story, but he had a choice whether he wanted to let the body die or whether he could ask for help. He was sort of wandering in India, and he's by this time got dysentery, food poisoning, dehydration, vomiting, diarrhea, and he's been like that for days, I think, and he's now on the brink of death. And he recognises that actually he could phone. Well, he didn't have a phone on him, but somebody passing would have a phone that he could ring for help. Mingyur Rinpoche is an abbot of a temple in India, several temples, and somebody from the temple would come and rescue him. And he pauses and thinks, look, is it better for all beings that I live and try and carry on teaching? Or is it better that I take this opportunity, die, become a Buddha in this way, and then help beings from the other side? And he can't decide whether to phone somebody or to die. And he says, I'm just going to let this nature of reality, which is the true nature of my own mind, I'm going to let it do what it wants, and let's see what happens. May the best thing happen for all beings. And anyway, he then he doesn't die, obviously. Something happens. I'm not going to tell you everything. But he describes the dissolution of the body. And it's classic six-element practice that he's going through. And what's more, he sees this light and he's able to let go into it recognize it, merge with it, but then come back, to life. And he then goes on a wandering retreat for, I think, 4 more years. It's an extraordinary account of somebody going into this after-death state from a dharmic perspective, an experienced meditator doing that, and what an opportunity it is. And the Buddhist falls in love with the world. He's transformed afterwards. And one of the things happens is that he loses his fear of death completely. Yeah. And that's not just Mingyur Rinpoche. If you read about near-death experiences, other people have had near-death experiences, they lose their fear of death. So isn't that a very, very positive, I take that as a really positive thing. We in this country, in our culture, see death as a frightening thing, usually at least, unless you're exceptional or maybe you're in pain and terminally ill and want to end the suffering. But for most people, death is a frightening thing. On Saturday night I went to see A Quiet Place Day 1, and there are all these monsters that eat you if you make a sound, and it's very entertaining. And I was jumping around all over the place, all the jump scares, and some of the ones that weren't in the film caused me to jump, and which is fine on a Saturday night. I do wonder what I'll be like when I meet the white light, as it were. Anyway, our chief injunction is to let go and train for it by practicing the Dharma. That's the message is, look, death is not to be feared. It's an opportunity, and we'll miss that opportunity if we're habitually clinging to this body and this life. Yeah. Okay, so the second verse is what happens when you miss the opportunity, because actually this pure light of awareness is very brief, as I say, and it's hard to have the wherewithal, probably, when you've just had this huge transition, to bear in mind what's happening, to remember the Dharma, and to have the confidence to let go when you haven't got much time to get your bearings. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So the second verse. Now, this is called the Bardo of Dharmata, but here it's translated as the Bardo of reality. Oh, now that the Bardo of reality upon me is dawning, abandoning all awe, that's A-W-E, or as in, it says abandoning all awe, fear and terror of all phenomena, may I recognize whatever appears as being my own thought forms. May I know them to be apparitions in the intermediate state. It has been said there arrives a time when the chief turning point is reached. Fear not the bands of the peaceful and wrathful, who are your own thought forms. Okay, so according to the tradition, what starts to happen now is that reality is still trying to break through and communicate with us. It's as if reality wants us to become enlightened. It's trying to break through our delusion and our clinging. But now it appears through a filter. It's no longer a sort of naked appearance of reality. It's now filtered. In a way, we've entered a slightly lower level of consciousness. Actually, it's said that you can bounce up and down between these levels. It's like this whole after-death process is that it's one of seeing the ultimate truth, not being able to handle it, recoiling, bouncing down to a lower level of consciousness that's more familiar to us, and then you get other opportunities, so you can bounce up again, and the light will flash again, and again you may miss it. That's said to happen at least twice. But then it's like reality starts to appear to us through a filter, And the filter is our visionary imagination. It's a visionary imagination. And so what happens is images start to appear. Images start to appear before us. Yeah. Now they are images of this liberated, enlightened, reality itself that are trying to communicate with us and say, look, let go, it's all right. Images will appear. And again, the injunction is trust and let go. It says, look, don't be frightened by these images. They are your own thought forms. What that means is that at the deepest level, your mind is the mind of reality. And everything that appears is the play of that deepest level of reality. All the images are, as it were, apparitions of this deepest level of reality. Yeah. And the images that, what Bhante says is that the images that will appear to you are ones that are culturally and, individually appropriate for you. So it might not be that you see Buddhas. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that's what you do see. The Buddhas appear. Archetypal Buddhas appear. But for you, it might be, I don't know, if you've been brought up a Christian, it might be the Virgin Mary that appears. Or it'll be an image that you recognise. It's like reality trying to communicate with you, saying, it's all right. It's fine. Let go. As it were, let go into me. Does that make sense? It'll be now in the Bardo to Dole. It's quite a systematized text where on day 1 this Buddha appears, and then on day 2 this Buddha appears. Day 2 after death, and then so on and so forth. Bhante thinks that look, it's not like that. That's just a very systematized way of trying to communicate something that's going to be more fluid than that. Yeah. But something that will be appropriate to you. Images will start to appear. And again, now what you're asked to do is 2 things. One of them is recognize that the appearance of the image, the appearance itself is an appearance, and it is not different from the true nature of your own mind. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do. So in earlier talks, I've been talking about how this world that we're now experiencing, Buddhism sees it as appearance that's somehow arising from the nature of reality. It's everything Buddhism sees as appearances. It doesn't believe in substantial things. There are no things. There are only appearances that appear to you and to me. To your senses, this world appears, this room appears. If you had different senses, you would have a different experience. If you had a different sort of mind, you'd have a different appearance. But if we're not trained in that way of perceiving, if our notion of perceiving is very literal, that I'm in here and whatever appears is independent of me out there, then we won't be accustomed to seeing these appearances as non-different to ourselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're being trained, again, Buddhism is trying to train you in recognizing that you're not somehow a separate thing in this room of things. It's not like, I don't know, you're a toy in a box, the box being the world, and you're just being plonked in it, and then you have the experience. This world that we experience is co-created by our own bodies and minds, and whatever it is that's independent of us. So Buddhism tries to train us in thinking like that, not just thinking like that, but again through meditative reflection. In the Bardo of life, you have to do listening, reflecting, meditating. The idea is that you start to have direct realization of the true nature of phenomena. Then when you die and these phenomena continue appearing, you're more likely to recognize what's going on. Yeah? So you're encouraged to let go of your fear and recognize the images as projections of your own mind, as manifestations of reality filtered through what we call our imagination. Another path that you can go down is if you can't if recognizing them as appearances of your own mind just sounds too complicated, you can just go for refuge to these images. If a Buddha appears before you and you let go and go for refuge out of faith, that too is said to work and be liberating. Okay. So you can either recognize or go for refuge or both. And if you do that, you also become enlightened. You become a Buddha in this visionary plane, this archetypal plane called the Sambhogakaya. You become a Buddha of the Sambhogakaya. But as well as these Buddha images appearing, apparently other images appear that are more worldly, things that you're attracted to. It's like you're being drawn by your cravings. Does that make sense? More worldly images, lights will appear. And so now you are trying to navigate something that's more complex. And you're trying to, as it were, recall your Dharma practice and not go down that worldly path and go towards the Buddhas. What happens apparently is that if we don't sort of recognize what's going on, we continue sort of bouncing down in terms of our level of consciousness. So again, I've been talking about consciousness has breadth to it, it's got heights to it, it's got depth to it. And if you meditate, you start to experience that. Now, in this Bardo of Dharmata, you have opportunities to become enlightened. If you don't take them or can't take them, it's like the consciousness starts going down. Images still appear, but they become more crude. And it's said that they even become more wrathful. They become more frightening. It's like the peaceful Buddhas that appear. It's like they may not be able to get through to you. So then you have wrathful Buddhas, wrathful forms appear. In the Indo-Tibetan tradition, you get these wrathful figures that they're monstrous looking. Yeah, they're monstrous looking. They're still manifestations of the nature of reality, filtered through your imagination, but your imagination is now a bit more crude, and the images that can appear to you are more crude. Does that make sense? And if you don't get frightened, you can still let go into them and recognize them. So the text says, "Fear not the bands of the peaceful and the wrathful, who are your own thought forms." So the injunction is, please don't be frightened. Don't be frightened. Whatever is appearing, it's fine. It's the nature. It's a play of reality, which is the play of the deepest level of your own mind. It's just that you've lost the ground that we normally base ourselves in. And again, in Triratna, you train for this. Again, it's an ordination. So I feel a bit mean saying this if you're not ordained. Apart from, you can ask for ordination, so do ask. You've got to have good reason. Don't just ask on a whim. It's a serious matter. But if you ask, you can ask, and you can undergo the training, and it's a good training. It's not, it's enjoyable. It's demanding, it's challenging, and it's also very fulfilling. And at ordination, you're given a visualization practice of a Buddha or Bodhisattva that you've chosen. It could be Amitabha Buddha, it could be Shakyamuni Buddha, it could be Padmasambhava, it could be a whole host of other Buddha or Bodhisattva figures that are archetypal, symbolic images, and you meditate upon them. Ideally, you do that every day till you develop a relationship with that image, a deep relationship with that image, faith in that image. It's an image of enlightenment. And then, when you're in this bardo, it's likely that that's the image that comes up, and you recognise it. Do you see what I mean? You've already trained in recognising it. Does that make sense? So much of Buddhist training is could be conceived of as training for death and what happens after death. It's not always what we talk about, but it is. That's one way of conceiving it. Obviously, it works in this life, but I was talking about that last week. Living a dharmic life is a fulfilling life to live. It's a human life that is grown up and you know how when you were young you kind of thought grown-ups would be grown-ups and then you grew up and you realise that we're not. Well, if you go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, it's a training in real growing up, in how to be a responsible, happy, healthy human being. Even that is living a worthwhile life, let alone training for death and whatever happens. Yeah. But that's an aside. So yes, you can train for this bardo, this visionary bardo that will open up as the second bardo of death, if you haven't already been liberated in the first bardo. So we just pause there and see if there are any questions about any of that. Doesn't have to be. I've got plenty more to say, but I just want to make sure I haven't lost you. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the first followers of the Buddha, they were not ready.
Not all of them. It was just one incident in the Pali Canon where some of those followers were not ready.
What aspects of the training was that?
I think they may not have had enough metta and positivity, metta and shraddha.
Okay.
Yeah, metta and shraddha. So if you contemplate death without metta and shraddha, you can get despondent, depressed. Yeah. So that's in a way we don't teach the six element practice at a Buddhist centre like this unless we know who we're teaching it to and have confidence that that person is psychologically healthy enough to do this sort of work. Yeah.
So there isn't a book that touches on all these elements of practice. It is
the six element practice. If there is, I wouldn't recommend it.
okay.
I would really say ask for ordination and get ordained and have it taught to you. Yeah. You need guidance with these practices, and they're really strong, powerful practices that can be blissful, liberating, freeing in a way that is absolutely beautiful. But if you're not ready for them, they could be destabilizing. So hearing about these practices is fine. What I'm doing won't destabilize you. I hope. I'm looking for reassurance there. But meditating on death is you've got to be ready for that. Lots of hands go up. I'm going to take one more. Go on. Yeah, go on.
Thank you. So I was recently with my uncle who passed away last week. And he was on the Liverpool pathway, which means he was on a lot of morphine and no food and drink. So it was quite a rapid pathway. What would be the Buddhist view of being absolutely sort of drugged up to the nines at the moment of death?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously he was in a lot of pain, and that's the usual way, I think, when you go into a hospice, when you go into sort of, it's all about comfort.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry your uncle passed away. And there are probably conflicting Buddhist views. What Bhante has said is, look, if you're in a lot of pain as you're dying, then your mind won't be able to be very relaxed or open anyway. So then you might as well take the palliative pain-killing drugs. In the Tibetan tradition, the state of your mind at the very moment of death of the body is given a lot of importance, and you are ideally aiming to be as clear as you can be in that state. But Bhante has taught that he thinks there's an overemphasis on, in the Tibetan tradition, on the karma at the moment of death. He thinks that, I'm going to come on to karma in a moment, but Bhante thinks how you've lived your life is going to be more important in terms of your consciousness beyond death than the moment of death, how it was at the moment of death. Does that make sense? So there are different sort of views in the Buddhist tradition. I tend to think Bhante's right. I would do that, but it's my intuition tells me that was right. I once had a conversation with a Tibetan Rinpoche he was saying that he had a story of somebody who died, who'd lived a very good life, had been a Buddhist practitioner, and just before he died, somebody came to see him who'd been drinking alcohol, and the dying person smelt the alcohol on this man's breath, and there was a moment of craving for a drink, and then he died. And according to the Rinpoche, this was a disaster, and had led to not very favourable rebirth. And I want to say, look, that's just superstitious. That just doesn't make sense to me about how a Buddhist life seems to work and unfold. So I would sort of say, look, the moment of death might be important. If it was me and I was dying, I would probably take the painkillers and trust and hope that the good that I've done in my life so far and the Dharma that I've practiced will hopefully come through. Does that make sense? Yeah. We are in the realm of the unknown, and even, as I said, even this Bardo Tadol isn't the only Buddhist view of death, but it does seem to somehow chime with how I experience the Buddhist life now. But thanks for asking. That's a very important question. Okay, so shall we move on? It's a shame to move on, because actually this is the opportunity that you've got in this Bardo to gain liberation. There is another Bardo that's coming up. If you don't take that opportunity, you don't recognise the images, peaceful and wrathful, as your own thought forms, or you don't go for refuge to them, you enter into another Bardo, which is the Bardo of rebirth. So your opportunities for liberation are now running out. Yeah, they're not quite gone, but they're running out. What the text? Oh, let me read you it. I don't know how much sense it will make, but it's good to read it anyway, and then I'll try and explain it a bit more. Oh, now when the Bardo of taking rebirth upon me is dawning, one-pointedly holding fast to a single wish, may I be able to continue the course of good deeds through repeated effort. May the womb door be closed and revulsion recollected. The hour has come when energy and pure love are needed. May I cast off jealousy and meditate upon the Guru, the Father Mother. So the language is pretty obscure, but what's said to happen is that you're sort of dropping down in terms of levels of consciousness. You're looking for stability. You can't find any stability. So we are used to having a degree of stability because the body is relatively stable. And the body's gone, and it's like, I guess an analogy would be when you're dreaming. When you're dreaming, there's not this physical, you might have a dream body, but you haven't got this physical body. And you're not in control so much. Do you know what I mean? The dream takes on its own course. Often, what happens in the dream is somehow reflecting what's been happening in your waking life, in the day, or maybe aspects of your subconscious or whatever. But you're not able to particularly, you know how you can be in one situation and suddenly you find yourself on an island and then you're in Sainsbury's, and it doesn't all make sense. There's no sort of grounded solidity and continuity that makes sense. Well, that's what starts to happen. You're looking for stability in this after-death state, but you're being blown around now, and your karma, or the consequences of your karmic actions, the winds of your karma now take over. So the life that you've lived starts to govern what now happens in this bardo of rebirth. It's like you're looking for shelter and protection, but these winds are blowing you along and you don't have very much agency anymore. Just like in a dream, you don't have that much agency and will, you can't direct it. That's what it's like now. All these images and forces are sort of coming into play. Well, what happens is that you are drawn to a particular world that corresponds to your psyche, your consciousness. So we've all been born in this human world, but we needn't have been. There are lots of other beings, material and non-material in the sense that you can't see them, I can't see them, unless you're psychic. I was talking to somebody who was psychic on retreat recently, and he could see all these non-material beings. And I know other people who can. I can't. But nevertheless, I'm completely confident that there's more than we can see going on in this world. It's like your consciousness will be drawn to a particular type of embodiment, and therefore a particular type of world, depending on your karmic tendencies. So depending on how you've lived your life. So again, Buddhist practice is a training in living a really good life, where you are trying to live from awareness and kindness, where you're trying to practice the precepts. You're trying to be responsible for your own minds. You're not only just trying to, practice the precepts from an outward basis, like kind acts and generous acts, but you're working on the craving and the hatred in your own mind. You're purifying your mind through Buddhist practice. That will help you in this bardo. Yeah, it will help you. It will help you move towards a better world. What's said to happen, if you're going to be born back into this human realm, you'll start to have images of couples copulating, couples having sex. So it takes the form of a sort of vision, and you'll be kind of drawn towards one of them, your future parents. That's what's happening here. That's what's said anyway. Now you still apparently, if you are I don't know, if you've got your wits about you and you're a Dharma practitioner, you can still be liberated. One thing that you can do is remember the aspiration that you have to practice the Dharma for the benefit of all beings. So traditionally it's called the Bodhisattva vow that we take on. In Triratna you don't formally take it on, but nevertheless you try and develop, particularly by the time you're ordained and then beyond, you try and develop an altruistic aspiration to practice the Dharma, not just for your own sake, but so that you can help others. And in this bardo of rebirth, if you can remember that aspiration and hold on to that aspiration, you can still be liberated for the sake of others. Do you see what I mean? You can still be liberated. Or at least, if that vow isn't strong, no, that's strong, you can be born in favourable circumstances to a family where you're going to have a healthy, happy, I don't know about healthy and happy, but where you'll be able to find the Dharma again. Favourable circumstances from a Buddhist perspective are not necessarily being born into a wealthy, powerful family and having lots of cars. It's not that. Favourable circumstances from a Buddhist perspective are finding yourself in a land and in a family and in a body where you will find the Dharma again and will be able to continue practicing again. So at least you can hold on to that as a wish. So again, everything that we do in our Dharma practice in this life is training for that. Because we're going to be, it seems like by this stage we really are relying on habit and instinct. Maybe that's what is true of all the death bardos. So you try and develop positive habits and instincts now. Does that make sense? Yeah. Another method to free yourself, in a way it's a tantric method, is that you see this couple, this man and woman having sex, as a single whole and as an embodiment of reality, as an appearance. You don't take it literally again. And it says meditate upon the guru, the father, mother. You try and see that this is an image of the masculine and feminine energies being united into a single whole. So they're like images of two aspects of reality, or two energies in reality that are being united. You don't take it literally. You don't think, oh, there's my dad, there's my mum. You think this is an image of union. Yeah. That's another way that you can try and work, apparently, in this bardo to stop yourself being reborn. You don't want to be reborn because there's a better way out. There's a liberation that is so much more positive. The other thing that says is Buddhism teaches us to, in a way, see this conditioned world, samsara, as it really is, and it teaches us a positive disillusionment with it. Normally, I think we try and pretend or hope that life is going to be perfect and work out for us. If you are my age, you know that won't happen. If you're much younger than me, well, of course I wish you well, and it's not likely to happen. So this Buddhism helps you get more real about samsara, and what it does is it gives you a positive disillusionment with samsara, but offers you a way out. It's no good just saying the world is miserable if there's no other alternative. Buddhism gives you an alternative. Now, in this bardo, it's saying, recollect that mundane existence is not all that you think it's cracked up to be. Having a body is not the best thing that you can be doing, having a human body. It's not the best thing. Remember that. In a way, Buddhism teaches us because we're so enamored with our having a human body, Buddhism, there are other practices that you can do, which is to just reflect on the body as a bunch of conditions of flesh and blood. It's not, you peel away the skin and it's not that attractive. So in this Bardo, you're meant to recollect an aversion to mundane existence and the human form. Does that make sense? Yeah. That will also, because what's happening in contrast is this strong attraction to this couple having sex. Yeah. The sexual desire is very, very strong in the human form, and also remember that by this time you're disoriented and feeling disoriented by not having a body. You've got nothing to sort of identify with or grasp onto, and you're not used to that sort of emptiness, that spaciousness. So the thought of having a body, there's a strong instinct there. Yeah? And if you do enter the womb, it's said that you swoon, you forget everything. You forget everything that's happened. It's sort of, you forget, and then you're a fetus in the womb again. And then you do it all again. Now, karmically, you carry karma from previous lives. We all do. And then what you have to hope for is that in this life, you can find a way of living a good life, and ideally meeting the truth. And I think that the Dharma, Buddhism doesn't have a monopoly on the truth, but it has a very, very clear path, clearer than I've encountered in any other context. I mean, it also has practices. Do you see what I mean? It has practices. So I've read philosophers and mystics from other traditions who I think, oh yeah, you're onto something. But they don't often give you practices like the metabhavana and meditation practices, generally the recollection of death, etc. Buddhism is extremely practical. So you have to sort of pray that you find that again. Part of why I practice, I don't know if I've practiced enough to become enlightened in the after-death state. I may find myself here again. Probably, hopefully, I'll find the LBC. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really glad that we're doing things for young people and school kids and teenagers, because it could be me in a few years' time, or you. Yeah? So you have to sort of see this as I see it as an adventure. Actually, I don't get anxious about it, and I'd urge you not to. I want to practice in this lifetime. I tell you a secret, I'm probably not practicing very as hard as I could. I watch too many silly films, like whatever it was, The Quiet Place, Day One, set in Manhattan with everything blowing up. I could have been meditating, couldn't I? But no, I don't. I don't practice as hard as I could. I'm not saying be like that. I'm saying live. Of course, you've got to live your life as best you can. What I am trying to do is deepen my practice and deepen my realization of the truth of the Dharma while I've still got a human body and a working mind. Because I don't know how long that will last. And then I hope that whatever happens after death, well, I trust that it'll take care of itself. If I come back in a human form, I hope that I'll find the Dharma again. And if I don't come back in this human form, then, I hope, it'll be even better. I imagine Bhante Sangharakshita, my teacher, in some better dharmic place, like a Pure Land. That's how I imagine him. I actually imagine him somehow connected with Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava, a few years ago, I had, while meditating, a vision of Padmasambhava. It was more than a vision. It was not just a visual thing. It was an experience of Padmasambhava manifesting in my presence, in my psyche. And I trust that these images are aspects of reality. That's what I'm trying to say. They're aspects of reality. Our ordinary common sense view of reality is impoverished and wrong. It's tiny and wrong. So part of what I'm trying to teach you or communicate is, look, I don't know what will happen after death. The Bardo Tadol may be right, may be wrong. To me it seems like it could be. It makes sense of my Dharmic experience. It also makes sense of, I'm very confident that death isn't the end. I've had experiences enough in meditation and out of meditation to be completely convinced that the death of the body isn't the death of consciousness. So I know that something will continue. I don't know what will happen. I'm prepared to take this on trust. But for now, all I can do is try and practice to the best of my ability now. Does that make sense? It's no good worrying about death. It's no good getting anxious about it. What is important is living a full, happy, healthy life, but best of all, a dharmic life, which is not just for yourself, but for the good of the world, of others around you. The world needs you and I to be practicing the Dharma. We are a tiny number of people in this world who practice the Dharma. Many people don't believe in anything beyond death, and then possibly they're living a good life, but it will be based on materialist assumptions, which limits things. Many other people, have a theistic view of the world, and if they have a theistic view from a Buddhist perspective, that might be better than not believing in anything beyond death, but it can also be really limiting, because you're still stuck in a dualistic notion of me and God. What this is saying is that we are part of the nature of reality, and we can recognise that and be completely liberated. That's unique to a Dharmic perspective. Theism has all sorts of other trouble. When you get into fundamentalism, look at the dukkha, the suffering that religious fundamentalism is causing in the world. And that's because you can get into arguments with other people. Buddhism just feels eminently sensible between that sort of theistic approach, eternalistic approach on the one hand, and on the other hand, that there's just this materialist, body is all there is, matter is all there is, and shopping is all there is, on the other hand. Yeah. So the world needs more of us to be not only practicing, but communicating a Dharmic perspective in the world, because it's very, very rare still. And even amongst Buddhists, many people, I think, don't have a very, very clear notion of what they're doing. Buddhism, particularly in the West, can be so decontextualized and become individualistic. It's just about me and my meditation and living a bit more mindfully so that I can get the car I want. Do you know what I mean? It's not this vast context of the meaning of life in the context of death. So we do have that clarity. Bhante Sangharakshita has really given us a very clear framework of practice and a path of practice to train for life and train for what happens at the end of life, for death. That feels so precious, so precious. I'm partly talking to myself just to remind myself how precious it is, this opportunity that we've been given. And if you take anything away from these 3 talks, I just urge you to really think about the opportunity that you've got now, just being alive. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.